Hi Team Social Studies, Dr. Bradshaw here. I want to give you a model of informed decision making, the this or that activity that I'm asking you all to do for your journey boxes. Let's go ahead and look at what is listed on the syllabus. So activity 5 is informed decision making. Create an opportunity where students examine primary sources and make an informed decision. Students might choose the most important supplies to bring on an expedition. Based upon the sources, they might choose the best solution to a historic problem based on the sources. So like for that one, it could be, kind of a mystery. One I used to love to do with my 6th graders was who killed Montezuma, and they had to look at different evidence and make a decision on the evidence as who they thought was guilty. Could be something like who sunk the Lusitania, where they examine evidence, but it goes really well with kind of CSI crime type of activities. Choosing between two different historical figures, events, objects that are the best worst representation of a topic, such as showing a picture of two inventions and asking students which is the most influential invention of the 20th century. Okay, so let's delve into some real-world examples. So first we want to practice the skill. So if I asked you, which is better, Chick-fil-A or McDonald's, beach or mountains? Most of you are going to probably have a gut reaction because you're like, oh, I definitely think Chick-fil-A is better. I definitely think the beach is better. But we want to kind of dig further than that. We want to say, okay, well, which one has the best French fries? I'll say, well, okay, well, maybe McDonald's has the better French fries. Okay, well, which one has the better service? Maybe Chick-fil-A has the better service. Well, which one has the better playgrounds? I don't know. I kind of like both of them. So when you specify a little more, and not just one thing versus the other, you're giving more clarification, and students are going to have to examine the evidence further. Like, well, I had this experience at this place, and I had this experience at this place. The same thing for beach or mountains. I say, well, what do you like better, the beach or the mountains? Okay, well, I like this. Okay, well, I'm personally a mountain person. You may be a beach person. And I say, well, why? Why do you think that one of these is better than the other? For me, it's because I have the skin of Casper the Ghost. So the beach is just a lot of sunblock and getting salt in my eyes and sunblock in my eyes, and it's just hot, and I don't like it. So I much prefer relaxing in the mountains. But if you change the person that you're asking this to, so if I said, which one does your daughter prefer, Dr. Bradshaw? My daughter would 100% say the beach. She tells me on a weekly basis that she's moving to Florida and she's 7. So it's, it goes from your perspective. She does not have very fair skin, and somehow salt air doesn't seem to bother her either. So she's coming from a different perspective than me, and so she values other things more than I do, and I value other things more than she does. So bringing in that perspective, you could do the same thing. Well, which one does your mother prefer, Chick-fil-A or McDonald's? I prefer Chick-fil-A. My mother would prefer McDonald's. And I know the reasons behind that because it was what she grew up with, and you have that nostalgia effect and things like that. So bringing in perspective, making the question specific, not just one thing versus the other, and asking students to provide evidence why. I love actually having students get up and move to different areas of the classroom, like if you're Chick-fil-A, go on this side. If you're McDonald's, go on this side. And then have them discuss with people in their same group who agree with them why they believe what they believe. And then they can partner up with somebody on the opposite side, or you could have a little debate on one side versus the other side as to which one they think is better. Okay, so let's practice this skill with some of our social studies content. So Lincoln versus Washington. Okay, well, some of you, again, may have a gut reaction. Well, I like Lincoln, or I like Washington. But we say, which one is better? Okay, well, there's all different qualifications you need to go through. Which one was the better president? Which one was the better military leader? Which one was the better civil rights leader? Which one was the better husband? Which one was the better father? I go back and forth with these because it's such these two men did such extraordinary things. So you could argue really for either one of them for any of these qualifications. Civil rights leader is probably a little more heavy-handed in the Lincoln direction, considering that George Washington had slaves. But there were some civil rights things that George Washington put forth. The simple idea of democracy was such a trailblazing idea that it should be considered. So again, you could say, I could ask people from other sides of, other countries in the world, well, which one do you think is the better president? England? England may say, well, George Washington, blah. But I like Abraham Lincoln because at that point in time, England and the United States were allies. So bringing it into perspective, or I can say, well, from a slave's point of view, which one do you think would be the better president? That one's going to have a very different answer than if I just said, which one is the better president? Because, George Washington set up the country. Abraham Lincoln saved the country in many ways, but if I'm asking from the point of view of a slave, it's obviously going to be Abraham Lincoln because of him signing the Emancipation Proclamation. So, thinking about that perspective again, let's look at another example. World War II versus World War I. So, which was worse? That's a question I would always get asked as a teacher. Well, there's a lot of ways to range which is worse. So you could say, is it based on the number of deaths overall? Is it based on the number of American deaths? Sorry, I'm missing an S. Is it based on the number of civilian deaths? Is it based upon the type of weaponry? Both of them had very innovative weapons for the time, but obviously the atomic bomb takes things to a different level. But when you think about all the different weapons that came out for the first time during World War I, it also had a tremendous effect. So you can't just say one versus the other. You need to make those qualifications. And again, I'm putting this like number of American deaths. That's usually what we think about in the United States. But if we talk about maybe like Russia's perspective in World War I, they suffered immense casualties, just like to a level that we couldn't even understand of their population. So if you you could ask, which one was worse for Germany, which one was worse for England, which one was worse for Russia. Making those qualifications are going to your students get a better understanding of the war. So they could compare these two. And then you can ask these qualifications to get them, again, to have a better understanding. You could also do this with geography. So say I'm traveling to California to participate in the gold rush. What way am I going to go? I could go by land or by sea. So Panama Canal is not open, okay, really. That's not going to happen for a couple decades later. But so it's mostly by sea, but a little bit of land. I could travel by sea, so I could take a boat and then go to Panama, cross the little skinny part by land, then get on another boat and sail all the way up to California. Or I could go entirely by land, except for the rivers and rivers that I would cross. Which one do you think would be better? Which one do you want to travel? And so to be able to answer this, well, what am I going to have to do? I'm going to have to look at first-hand accounts of what it was like traveling by land, what it was like traveling by sea, probably some secondary accounts too, and then I'm going to make my decision as to which one I would like to do. Just so you guys know, a majority of the gold miners in Dahlonega left once gold was discovered in California, and the majority of them actually took the sea route because it was just such a long road when there wasn't a road to travel across the land. Okay, so that's another informed decision you could make. This one, I don't have a versus, but if you've ever heard the phrase, if you were trapped on a desert island, what items would you take with you? So you could do this in all sorts of ways. So like, again, I'm traveling, what items do I need to go on this expedition? Or what items should I use to represent this person? What items do I think are the most important to take with me if I go to, I don't know, if I'm traveling again to participate in the gold rush. Which monument do I think is the most important? There's so many different things that you could do here when you're having to make a choice between, what is the most or what is the least important. What would be your first priority if you were on a desert island? So again, that's decision making. So what decisions would you need to make immediately if you were traveling on some sort of expedition? Or if you had become the president of the United States, what 3 things would you decide need to happen first? So again, I'm basing my decisions on evidence. In order to do this well, you're going to need to provide the students with some guiding questions. Remember, every activity should have some questions with it. You don't just say this or that, make a decision. You need to give them a couple of things to consider. Also, they're going to need some sort of background information. So the background information could be the other elements in your journey box. So you've provided them with, multiple sources about this topic. So if that's the case, you want to make sure that you specify where they're getting this, what they're getting this information from when you write up this section of the journey box. But other things that you might look at are videos, articles, books that you read with the class, and primary sources. Somehow I forgot to write primary sources here. So you could provide them with additional sources. But the goal of the activity, again, is to make an informed decision, which is, again, based upon evidence, between different, at least 2 different items. So this or that, or it could be more than 2, whatever it is that fits your topic best. All right, so that's that. Let me guys know if you have any questions. I'm always here to help. Talk to you later.